Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Moonshiners Racing presented by Depot Street Sports. I'm your host, Michael Rizzo. I'm joined with Aiden Fortney, Zachary Kendall, and Bunny. Guys, we're back. We're ready to talk all things Chicagoland. Guys, how was the weekend? We obviously went to the race. Sorry, Bunny, you couldn't make it. But overall, I thought it was a great weekend. Guys, how about you?
Definitely enjoyed the weekend. Got to spend time with my dad, my grandpa, and my cousin. It was fun. The day started off early for me, getting up at 8 a.m. to head to the track and get everyone to head to the track. I traveled probably the furthest distance out of everyone here, but I still had fun overall. It was Fourth of July weekend too. I had a blast the entire weekend. Uh, yeah, was really fun. I enjoyed the race. I enjoyed viewing experience. It's always fun going to a NASCAR race, no matter what. It always is fun. I spent way too much money on 164 scale diecast. It was over $200. Let's just say that. Anyways, yeah, feeling good right now. Feeling great. My hair looks good today. I've noticed that. This is probably the best my hair has looked in any episode so far. So I am also feeling great about that.
Yeah, it was a good weekend. You said it was the 4th of July weekend, and the day before, I was spending time with family, watched some fireworks, all of that. Had some burgers, always great. And then the following day was when we went to Chicagoland with my brother. Um, Nothing to really to complain about. I think about the race. I mean, sure, maybe it wasn't the greatest race you'd ever see in person, but it was fairly solid. It was fairly decent. And, the outside of the parking manifestation that it was, the mess that it was, I enjoyed it. And, yeah, I'm ready to talk all things Chicagoland.
Yeah, I had a really good weekend this past weekend. Kind of worried about you guys and the weather and everything going on up in your neck of the woods this past week, but big win, big race for Toyota this week. And yeah, celebrated Gurley's birthday this past weekend, big 16. Good weekend, 4th of July.
Yeah, it was a good weekend indeed. Going to the race, finally being back at the track was great. Being back in Chicagoland was great. Seeing NASCAR back since first time since 2019. Yeah, Zachary, you brought up the parking situation. That was a pain in the ass. That is not a lie there. If it weren't for the rain, I feel like those issues would have not really been there as much. Did suck that every way to get into the track is a two-lane road. It is in the middle of nowhere. You guys found that out pretty quickly when you got there. But yeah, overall, great race weekend. Glad I was able to go out there and just like Aiden, yeah, I spent quite a lot of money on diecast hats, shirts, you name it. Definitely spent my time looking at the all the fun stuff in the fan zone. But overall, great race weekend. Now let's get to it. Chase Briscoe gets his first win of the season in the return at Chicagoland. Guys, thoughts on Chase Briscoe's drive, the overall racing product on the track, and what you guys thought about it?
I still enjoyed the race. Now, I don't think this was the best Chicagoland we've ever seen, uh, but I still thought it was good. Like I don't think that it was a terrible race. I know Jeff Gluck uh, did the poll, and the poll ended up being rated. The fans end up rating Chicagoland as the third best race of the NASCAR season. I wouldn't give it third personally, but I would see an argument for top five. Definitely top 10 for sure. Uh, I still enjoyed the race. Like if people are hyping up to be a 9 out of 10, I thought it was a 7 out of 10. And yeah, if I that's still a good rating. I still thought it was a good race. Um, there were really saw a lot of passing, especially start like on restarts and stuff like that. When they got fanned out, there was some aero blocking going on. You can definitely tell. Uh, I feel like that's fixable, and there is definitely room to improve. Part of that could also just be the drivers weren't super familiar with driving on Chicagoland. I know they drive similar tracks, and they have been, but only uh, 17 drivers from the 2019 race end up racing in this one too. So Yeah. A lot of drivers weren't familiar with this track, which is understandable. So that could have also affected it a little bit. I think it could be better. Congrats to Chase Briscoe though. Briscoe, I mean, he got hot. One of you two called it. Rizzo or Zach. One of you two called it and said that at this time last year, this is when not Ryan Priest. Chase Briscoe got hot. It was Zachary. He's pointing at himself. Briscoe got hot at this time last year, and he's getting hot again.
If anyone does not know who Chase Briscoe's favorite driver growing up was, it was Tony Stewart. And what did Tony Stewart do best? Get hot in the summer and then go from there into the chase.
It's lights out during the summer.
So,
like, look back on that 2005 season. He won like 4 races and won 5 races in like 6 weekends in 2005 during his second championship. That's actually ridiculous, the stretch he was on in June and July that year.
Exactly. And I'm not saying that Chase Briscoe's obviously going to do that, but it seems like they have a similar MO where they take the first like 2 months of the year to really 2-3 months of the year to get really their feet under them, get some decent finishes, don't fall further behind in the points. Now, Briscoe was kind of at the very beginning, he was like around 30th in points, but he slowly but surely climbed his way forward into a chase spot, and now he's firmly, I think, in the top 10 in points now because of this win. And yeah, I mean, the race, it started out pretty slowly. They had to get some rubber in, and as soon as that happened, because it seemed like they were all like migrated to the bottom of the track, very few cars were up to the top. But as soon as the race kept going and on, more and more cars started to go up there and started to get widened out more. You saw more passing being done. You saw Kyle Larson do a somewhat Kyle Larson expected experience, honestly, is where he's running fast and then he ends up hitting a bump and spins out on his own. So that's unfortunate for him. But yeah, Briscoe held off Bell at the end there. And I know people were complaining about how he was aero blocking, but that's what you got to do in the next gen car to win some of these races. You got to do that, and he firmly did it very well. And going into the weekend, again, I was expecting this to be like a 9.5 out of 10 race, but I don't think it was that. It was probably like 7.5 out of 10. Still thoroughly enjoyed it. I still think it's top 5 race of the year so far, and I do hope they go back because when I bought my tickets, they still had a fair amount of seats left open, but it ended up being a sellout. And I think we'll get into it a little bit later, but I think like this race particular is attractive to different types of people that attend the Chicago Street Race, if that makes sense, as opposed to, obviously out here in Juliet, where you are right, Rizzo, it's out in the middle of basically nowhere. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. And yeah, Briscoe, he wasn't really obviously the top contender I was looking at to potentially win this race. But again, I was saying it, how he gets hot he got hot like last year around this time. He's doing it again, once again this year, it seems.
Yeah, he gets hot during the summer. That's just how he does it for Chase Briscoe. I will say I said it a lot earlier than Zachary did, so I was a couple weeks early. But yeah, Zachary did mention it last week, and sure enough, he gets the win here. But yeah, Zach, and then you guys both mentioned he wasn't the guy you were looking at the start of the race. He kind of started, just back half of the top 10 and just kind of just stayed there for the majority of the race. And then when the sun really went down, that's when his car looked like it came to life there. And then strategy in that last cycle put him to the lead there. But overall, I thought it was a great race. Great race if you're a Toyota fan. 7 of the top 10 spots, all to Toyota. And, I mean, that's not counting guys like Tyler Reddick, who had a very fast car, had some issues, had to change the radiator, had a hole in the radiator. It went all over the track. So he could have been up there. Eric Jones had issues as well in the race, was all the way back in 30th, and then worked his way back to 15th. So Toyota is dominant as of right now. But you take a look and you watch that race, Hendrick is getting there. They're getting there. You had William Byron, a guy that we have not talked about all year long, unless it's some weird issue he's had at a racetrack or whatever. sweeps the stages, doesn't get the finish that he deserved, finishing fourth. But overall, fantastic drive from him. If you guys mentioned Kyle Larson, if Kyle Larson didn't have the issues he had, where he had probably the best short run car, lost it off of turn 4 there later in the race, ended up being 2 laps down, and never really being able to pick back up where he was. Probably had some diffuser damage. And then Chase Elliott was just kind of there around 5th all night, 5th to 8th all night. So yeah, Hendrick has come back. Oh wow, and I completely forgot Alex Bowman finishing 5th. That's a great run from those guys. I guess you could say the defending winner of the racetrack, a couple years late, but but yeah, he showed up first race where I think he and everyone, all his fans, his team could say they had a complete race. It was a good race. Nothing crazy happened. They didn't have no speed. They were out there and they had a pretty good car, especially there later in the race. Overall, I thought it was a great race, solid race. Aiden mentioned it was probably not the best Chicagoland race, but I thought it was a top 3 Chicagoland race in my opinion. Probably around 3rd. But overall, I'm glad it's back. I hope it stays. We're going to talk about this later. But yeah, besides the parking issues, besides it being in the middle of nowhere, and you know, there's all this going on with the Chicagoland and the street course. I hope it stays. Hopefully, we see it next year. Moving on, there was some battles going out on the track. Let's talk about the first one here being SVG and Austin Hill. Guys, thoughts on this battle between the two of them?
I'm going to reference the quote I made in our group chat when I heard about this. And I quote, that's from me. It's not going to be a 1-to-1 because I don't remember it. I don't have it written down, but I remember what it was like. I feel like it was painfully obvious. I mean, SVG did dump him, but I don't give 2 shits about Austin Hill. Fuck him. Anyways, yeah, it was. Yeah, I think it was definitely payback for San Diego. Really, ever since, I mean, we all know the circumstance that Austin Hill has been thrown into is horrible for no matter how we put it. But if you really take away what he has dealt with and what he has been thrown into, he's kind of sucked. Like, he has not been good the entire season since filling in for Kyle. He really hasn't impressed all that much. He's been causing a lot of incidences and just overall hasn't been running good. And obviously that boiled over at San Diego, where he took out probably the 2 best drivers in the field with Zillage and SVG. I think SVG has every right to be angry. Obviously, in the post-race interview, he did, at San Diego, he didn't really seem all that mad, but you can tell he was definitely a little bit frustrated, to say the least. And I think that boiled over to here. And, you know, I can't remember if it was Richard Childress or Hill's spotter that said that was payback for San Diego. In my opinion, that definitely was payback for San Diego. I think that is exactly what happened. I don't think really if, ands, or buts about it. But SVG did not admit to it. So, yeah, that's a different can of worms we're going to get into later.
Yeah. Out of both of these incidents, the guy that has to be most ticked off has to be Ryan Preece, because of, you know, both these incidents look very similar to what he did to Ty Gibbs at Texas, and yet he got penalized and no penalty happened between Smith or SVG. Now, talking strictly about SVG real quick, or on this matter, yeah, Aiden's right. It did look like he was definite payback, and you know how they said drivers hold a memory? They're like elephants; they don't forget. These two have been going at each other for like the last 3 years. This goes all the way back to when SVG was full time in the O'Reilly series, happened at Sonoma like 3 years ago, where they're both battling each other, and I think Hill on one restart, the restart before the final restart, knocked into SVG, sent him wide. Then another caution came out, and they had a restart. SVG gets into Hill, he spins him out. And then after the race, as SVG is doing his burnouts, he's like drifting by Hill's car, and giving him the smoke, and Hill's got the finger out the window telling him what he thinks about him and whatnot. And then this year, they've had 3 incidents in like the last like 5 weeks. This like Pocono off a restart, Hill gets wide off a turn 3, causes a big accident. SUG gets caught up in that one. San Diego, obviously Hill's on the front row with Zilich, and SUG's just behind him. He overshoots the corner and causes an accident there and takes SPG out. And that race is very important for SUG, considering the fact that, he had time. He was still probably learning the track, but he was obviously still the best driver in that field to run that course, probably still. And he missed out on like 40, 50 points. So that was very important for SUG, and he knows it. And I'm quoting Ryan Priest, and when he said he cut Ty Gibbs no brakes, SUG cut Austin Hill no brakes getting into that corner. And to be fair, I think he got to the bottom first before Hill ever did. So honestly, fair game to the 97. I feel like in that instance where Hill kind of took a very weird line, like he didn't even try, like he might have been trying to arc the corner, but they were entering the corner and he just cut down on his nose and obviously caused a big accident. And yeah, I mean, we all grew up in the boys have at it era, where, they used to let the drivers police themselves until it got too far. I love that era, and I think that NASCAR drivers should be allowed to police themselves. If they keep doing this, though, obviously, then something needs to be done about it. But otherwise, I think it's fair game.
Here's my stance on it. You said you said you like the boys have at it, era of NASCAR, and then it got too far. I don't think it did. I don't think it got far at all. Like, sure, 2013 when you had all those fights, 2014 you had more fights. It was awesome. It was badass. 2015 you had the fight, the quote unquote fight between Tony Stewart and Joey Logano. That was awesome. That was awesome. If it was an actual fight, I think Tony Stewart, ends that one within a couple seconds. But anyway, I don't know why NASCAR got away from that. I really don't know why we got away from the boys have at it when our marketing thing this year is hell yeah. Like,
I think I'm going to have a rebuttal for that. I think the moment where that did become an issue was 2015 Martinsville. I think when Kenseth absolutely junked Joey Logano, while Logano was probably the favorite to win the championship. I think that's if I had to pinpoint a moment, I think that was the exact moment where NASCAR may have been like, yeah, we should probably do something.
And it was awesome.
It was awesome. I'm not saying they should have. I'm not saying they should have, but
that's the one time. If you go back and you watch races, you look at it, that's the one time you're going to see a crowd go absolutely freaking insane at a racetrack. You go back and you watch that, the fans are going crazy. It was awesome. And I think
I remember jumping up and down and yelling.
Same. I hate Joey Logano still to this day.
Yeah.
Oh my
I hate
God.
him too, and he's my teammate.
I just wish NASCAR safety this, safety that. Yeah, safety's great. Safety is very much important, but you are missing out on so much of these, You're just missing out on so much because these rivalries could be. We're missing out on some great rivalries of the day. Like, imagine if it was boys have at it with Ross Chastain and Denny Hamlin a couple years ago. That would be a cool one. I mean, you couldn't name any more because you can't say anything.
I mean, what's crazy is the fact that, you would think they would have gotten rid of it after RIP Kyle Busch, but when he went down to the Truck Series and he and Ron Hornaday got into each other at Texas, you would think that they would have done something like outside of, they did suspend Busch that weekend, and I think that's the only weekend he got suspended. You would think they would have, out of all the incidents that happened in that era, they would have got rid of it after that. But you are right, they continue to have that boys have at it, and you are right. That 2014 playoff was epic to watch because outside of Kevin Harvick just winning Charlotte and then winning Phoenix and then championship, everybody, and then Ryan Newman almost winning it with no wins, minus their last race. That when they were going at each other, Keselowski specifically obviously was pissing everybody off. You are right. That was epic to watch. And I also remember that 2015 Martinsville race. I wasn't jumping up and down, but I had a huge grin smile on my face after it happened because, I mean, Logano had it coming. He had it coming. So
I counter argument to the Ron Hornaday and Kyle Busch thing. I feel like that was kind of a separate thing. Like Joey Logano and Matt Kenseth was between two full-time Cup Series drivers. The Kyle Busch incident was just a one-off Cup driver racing in the trucks for no reason and just dumping the championship favorite. I just feel like those were two different things, and those two different things got two completely different reactions out of the fans too. So I feel like that it's not that it was different circumstances. The circumstances around it was different, so that's probably why they didn't do any immediate reactions, and they did suspend him for 2 races as 100% they should. Even Kyle Busch, before his passing, admitted that was one of the worst mistakes he's ever made, and he regretted that one.
Yeah, it's two different situations, but both. Yeah, I could see why you would argue that NASCAR should have changed it then, but I just think NASCAR is missing out on so much opportunity to showcase these drivers, showcase the sport. When you have what would be 1979 Daytona 500 without the fight there? Oh, there's a fight, and they didn't show that. If there was an issue, NASCAR.
You know what?
That was the first time it was televised. If without it, what happens in NASCAR?
You know what's one thing? This is going to sound weird when I say this. NASCAR needs a dick. You know what I mean? I feel like the drivers are too nice to each other. There needs to be just one guy who's an absolute asshole to everyone and just isn't friends with anyone.
That's
you feel me?
Hill.
Yeah, that's fair. But I feel like we need more. We need more in the sport.
I'm trying to think, now that we got the topic of fights, I'm just trying to think if we had the boys have at it. How many fights would Carson Hocevar have gotten into in the last 2 years?
Dude, you know how awesome
hell of a
it'd be?
voice crack. 2, way too many. Well, here's the thing: he probably would stop wrecking people if he got his ass beat one too many times.
Yeah.
You feel me? I feel like if you got your head bashed in, you just be like, I probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, sure, it would take. So it would take a driver, a lot to reach up there since Hocevar's taller than everybody. But Hocevar's a thin guy, so I think if someone lands a punch, he's definitely going to quit it. But anyway, I mean, you just look at. I'm gonna keep saying it. NASCAR is just missing on so many opportunity and growth for this sport without having these fights, having these rivalries. You look at in other sports, the rivalries you have there, the players jawing back and forth. NASCAR, you can't even talk to each other. Now, it's a whole lot better than F1 where you can't even curse on the radio. But at least in NASCAR, you can. But, I mean, we have these quote-unquote rivalries, but they don't do anything. They don't say anything because if they say something, we see what happens. Ryan Preece said something on the radio. I'm going to get that 54. He drives it. He has a perfect car, and he drives like an ass or something like that. I'm going to get him next time I get him. He just didn't lift. He didn't give him a break, just what Zachary was saying. And that cost him 25 points. And at the rate that is going, that 25 points might cost him the chase. Now you look at this situation. It was identical to what Ryan Preece did to Ty Gibbs. SVG does the same thing. He's had it with Austin Hill's BS that he's done to him, wrecking him 2 of the last 5 weeks. And he just didn't give him a break. The only thing that was different about it was he played dumb. Oh, that fella hit me under yellow. Yeah, that's what he said. and then after the race, I don't know. He just hit me, and and he said something about him grunting and all that. He didn't say much at all or anything. He kept denying it. Didn't even know if anything happened. So of course he's not going to get in trouble. And then the same thing with this other situation, Carson Hocevar and Zane Smith. Zane Smith did not follow Landon Castle's rules of wrecking someone. He wrecked himself in the process, made his race a lot worse than it was for Carson Hocevar. So, guys, we've been talking about a lot of fights and rivalries, but let's talk about this one before we move on.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about that is, you know, when you're watching the race in person, you don't see everything happen, unlike it's on TV. So I didn't realize Hocevar was in the wreck. I was looking at turn 3 and 4. I'm guessing that's because Blaney was up there because he's just that good and he's always up front. I was looking over there. The wreck happened in 2, and like I hear you always. The funny thing about NASCAR races, you always know when there's a wreck because everyone kind of just collectively does a like, and everyone just starts pointing. Like everyone just does it at the same time. Like it's kind of hilarious. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like that. And I looked over and like Zane Smith is in the wall. And 2, and I didn't see Hocevar. I didn't know what happened to Hocevar, and I swear, I just thought, oh, Zane Smith just spun himself, and I didn't realize that they locked horns until I got to the hotel that night after the race. So yeah, that kind of says a lot because, like you said, rule 1 about wrecking someone in NASCAR: do not wreck yourself. Yeah, Zane Smith did not do that, and he paid the price for it. He had a really bad night. Zane Smith has had a rough few weeks recently. There for a little bit, he was 20th in points. He looked like he could have made a run at a possible chase spot if just a few more things went his way. But he has fallen off since then, and really he kind of dug himself in a hole with this one. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, yeah, he kind of got into it. I don't know what sparked it before. I know these two have had beef for a while. I know this is not a new thing between these two. And for me personally, I feel like this is more obvious than the SVG and Austin Hill one. I am shocked that this one didn't at least get a penalty. Now, that could be NASCAR being like, well, he kind of also was stupid and wrecked himself in the retaliation, so he doesn't need to be penalized, which I kind of would understand that a little bit, but still, I just thought it was more obvious than the Austin Hill and SVG one, and definitely more obvious than Ty Gibbs and Ryan Preece one. So I thought it definitely should have been a penalty there.
Yeah, for this, it was like, again, entering a corner and the guy from behind has beef with the guy that's in front of him. And it's just like, I'm going to take you out. Now, he didn't take him out fully, but and he kind of took himself out in the process. And you are right. Landon Castle, you keep on getting brought up even though you've been out of NASCAR for 5 years, something like that. I mean, what I can't get out of my mind is the fact that out of everybody that Hocevar has gotten into, whatever, it's Cole Custer and Zane Smith are the guys that have actually paid him back somewhat on the track. Now, obviously, Hocevar, if you guys if you've been on Instagram and seen his stories, he's like not taking Zane Smith all that serious, obviously, because he drives for Front Row. No offense, Front Row is not the best equipment in the garage, but it just it's you get to a point where you rub somebody and rub and get on them and then it's a snap. And you see that in the history of NASCAR throughout, when you have drivers that aren't really up front, that get up front, rub the top guys, get into them, and it's fair game if they do that and you win. Because then you might earn some respect that way, because that's like you're winning because of it. But the reason why Hocevar hasn't won, I feel like, outside of Talladega, obviously, is that when he gets into these incidents, he wrecks his car more and more. It hurts his car's performance. Where if you look at it, the best races, I saw on Door Bumper Clear how they said like the best races that he's put together so far this year are the ones where he's not gotten into anybody. Like I remember Darlington, obviously, where he went all the way from 15th to 4th in like the last 40 laps because he didn't get anybody. And I mean, I'm sure he had a good strategy. his team had a good strategy, but he didn't like getting anybody. He kept his car clean. He just grinded it out and got a 4th place finish. I mean, there's aggressively smart and then there's aggressively stupid. And unfortunately, a lot of the things he's done is aggressively stupid. But hey, I'm all for it, honestly, because that's just him. That's who he is. And it doesn't matter if you're a nice guy. It doesn't matter if you're a guy that people can't stand. So he'll get into Joey Logano the same way he'll get into Chase Elliott at some point. So, and Zane Smith, I guess, good job for kind of getting your point across. But at the same time, you also wrecked your night early on as well.
Yeah, it was a failed attempt at wrecking someone for Zane Smith, and I'm a piggyback off Aiden here. I totally did not even know that I just saw the caution was out, had no idea, and then everyone's saying Zane Smith, and then I see him go to pit road. I had no idea Hocevar got involved until after I had left the race. That's when I find out that this is a situation. And I watched the other one with Austin Hill. I saw Austin Hill wreck, but I didn't know that it was SVG that wrecked him until after the race as well. But yeah, no, just.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
Yeah.
I saw that one. I was literally watching Austin Hill and SVG. I literally saw it happen. Like
I saw him spin and hit the wall. That's it. I didn't see any. I just saw a car going sideways, and that's when I noticed it because I was looking at the front and they were in the back. But anyway, just an eventful weekend at Chicagoland. I'm glad it happened when we were there, even though I kind of missed it a little bit. But overall, great weekend. A lot of tempers flaring, seeing if it will continue next week at Atlanta. We'll talk about Atlanta here a little bit later, but we're still going to talk about Chicagoland for the O'Reilly Series. Brandon Jones gets the win and beats a hard-charging Chase Elliott late in the race. Chase Elliott had the best car, especially late in the race, and Brandon Jones was able to pass him and hold the lead and get the win there late. Guys, thoughts on this race and thoughts on Brandon Jones?
Congratulations. We saw a Brandon Jones win. Yay, everyone gets a medal. Anyways, yeah, good for Brandon Jones. I definitely thought Chase Elliott was going to win. I think we all thought Chase Elliott was definitely going to win there. But held him off there and got, what, was that his first win of the season or his second win of the season? Yeah, it's first win of the season. Yep, first win of the season. I'd say now he's probably comfortably above the chase line, like definitely comfortably. Now, him missing the chase would have just been like a complete disaster would have had to happen. But now I think he's all but essentially guaranteed at this point. You want to know who is guaranteed? Excuse me. You want to know who is guaranteed? Justin Allgaier has already guaranteed locked himself into the chase. We have 5 races left. That really says a lot. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, he's already locked in to the chase. I mean, we all kind of just expected it. The O'Reilly race, kind of about the same as the Cup race. It might have been a little bit better. I don't know. It's a little bit iffy. I experienced both those races in 2 different ways. I experienced the O'Reilly race on TV and I experienced the Cup race in person. Those are 2 completely different ways to watch it. Not to mention the O'Reilly race unfortunately had some rain delays in there too, so that hindered it a little bit. I thought it was a good showing, first race for the O'Reilly race back at Chicagoland as well. Definitely excited to see if they do come back, which is going to be a topic for later on, and we'll get there eventually.
I think what I thoroughly enjoyed most about this whole entire weekend is the fact that all these races were happening under the lights at night, basically. I just thoroughly enjoy that. I think it's very pleasing, especially on TV and in person as well, to watch that happen, the transition from, late afternoon into the nighttime. I think it's just really great. And, I've been on Brandon Jones for what he is, and we all know what he is. He's a guy that, brings sponsorship, Menards. That's why he has these top rides. And, as much as I like to crap on drivers that just bring sponsorship and nothing else, he does have a fair amount of wins in this series. And that was a very good win for him. I honestly thought Taylor Gray was a little better than him at points. I thought Chase Elliott was better than him at points. especially on the short run too, which is kind of weird considering that this was a definition of a short run with 2 laps to decide it. But you were, as the leader, you get first pick for the lane, which lane choice you wanted. Elliott wanted the top, but you're also prone to who your pusher is behind you, and that's Jesse Love was behind Chase Elliott, and it seemed like that Love couldn't get up to speed enough quicker to push him ahead of him. And as soon as Jones was able to hang with him off of 2, the inside on the 3rd lane was, I feel like the lane you wanted to be at entering that corner, because then you could just think about, running him up a little bit, getting him out of the throttle. That's kind of what happened. Because as Elliott tried to go into 3 again, stay in the right rear quarter panel of Jones, he got tight and had to get out of the throttle and ended up losing the position, and obviously ended up losing the race. So yeah, I mean, kind of unexpected, because the tracks I look at for Brandon Jones to win at is Darlington and it's Kansas. He came on 2nd at Kansas to Taylor Gray. Something needs to be said about this that was pointed out in the broadcast too, is that while Justin Allgaier has been very good, obviously been the best driver in the series, and Jesse Love is 2nd in the points and Corey Day's 3rd, there are 3 1.5 mile tracks in the O'Reilly Series, chase the last 7 races. And the team that's actually, I feel like, been the best, most overall competent team, honestly, on these tracks has been Joe Gibbs Racing. Taylor Gray won Kansas, and Brandon Jones won here at Chicagoland. I don't remember who won Charlotte, but Ross Chastain won Charlotte. Yeah, I'm just saying that JGR seems like they had their 1.5 mile program really good in the O'Reilly Series, and yeah, it was a great win for Brandon Jones.
Yeah, Brandon Jones showed up late here in the race. He was not going to be denied. Zachary, you kind of mentioned the short run and how he really didn't have that short run car, but like I said, he was not going to be denied this win. You could tell he really wanted. I mean, I'm sure everyone wanted it, but he proved that he really did. Chase Elliott did everything he could to get back to him and try to get past him, and it just did not work out for him. And he gets the win for Brandon Jones. Overall, pretty solid race. The Chase battle is kind of heating up there to get in. The 3 other JGR cars are all kind of battling for that last spot with Taylor Gray, William Sawalich, and why do I always forget his name? He's going to be really good someday in the 19. Guys, why do I always forget his name?
Is it Brent Cruz?
Brent Cruz. Why do I always forget his name? Dang. Anyway, the 3 of them are all battling for those last kind of 2 spots at this current moment. And Brent Cruz kind of got into his teammate. William Sawalich kind of set up that late race restart. William Sawalich is now out. Brent Cruz is now up by I think quite a lot of points, 34. I could be wrong. And then Taylor Gray's that last car in right now. Who would have thought though that the 3 of the 4 JGR cars would be fighting to get in the last 2 spots at this current moment. But overall, solid race all around at Chicagoland. Moving on, let's get to news around the garage and start with the point standings as always. Your leader in first, Denny Hamlin. In second, Tyler Reddick. In third, Ryan Blaney. In fourth, Ty Gibbs. Fifth, Chase Elliott. Sixth, Kyle Larson. Seventh, Chris Buescher. Eighth, Chase Briscoe. Ninth, Carson Hocevar. 10th, Christopher Bell. 11th, Daniel Suarez. 12th, William Byron. 13th, Bubba Wallace. 14th, SVG. 15th, Austin Cindric. 16th, Eric Jones. 17th, Ryan Preece. 18th, Joey Logano. 19th, AJ Allmendinger. And in 20th, Brad Keselowski. Guys, taking a look at the points, give me 3 drivers you would like to talk about.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to mention we haven't really mentioned the top 3 in a while, and I'm going to mention them right here. Obviously, we've harped on the downfall of Tyler Reddick after his large point lead over the rest of the field, and Denny Hamlin has now surpassed him and has widened the gap. You want to know who has closed the gap quite a bit? Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney is now only 69 points, very nice, behind Tyler Reddick. With how Reddick has been driving and how Blaney's been driving, and Blaney's good tracks are coming up too. Got to take a look at that as well. There's a good chance we see the possibility of Tyler Reddick falling to third in points even more deeper into debt with that one. The next guy I want to mention is, I'm mentioning two chase drivers already. I want to mention Daniel Suarez. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure this is the first time all season he is outside the top 10 in points, which I think speaks more into the type of season he's been having rather than what he has been doing recently. Now, yeah, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The last two or three races really have not been good for him, but still standing 11th in points after running like 7th to 9th the entire season is still incredible, and I still think he's going to make the chase, and I think he can turn it around. I mean, he's good at Atlanta and better at some of the other tracks that we're about to head to. So I think this would be so I've been really interested in watching Daniel Suarez recently. And sadly, number 20, Brad Keselowski. I mean, damn, what happened? I remember when Brad was in the chase. That feels like ages ago now. We came to Chicagoland, one of his better tracks. They qualified well. RFK was 3 and 4. We thought, all right, they're going to be good today, hopefully. And Brad Keselowski on the first restart went from like 3rd to 15th in a second. Chris Buescher was able to hold on, but even he struggled at Chicagoland and had a bad outing. Not as bad as Brad, though, because he took the green flag, was in 3rd and dropped, and I don't even know where he ended up. I don't even remember what happened to him the entire race. And yeah, that is just really bad for him. It's been bad for him for a while now.
All right. The biggest mover from where he was entering Chicagoland has to be, I got to talk about him again, is Chase Briscoe here in 8th place. And the reason why I bring him up is the fact that I talked about him, how he gets hot during this summer, and how it could set him up very well if he stays near that top 6. Well, he wasn't really near the top 6 until he entered the summer. But he finally climbed himself into the chase. He's now up here in 8th in points. He is oh so close, honestly, if you look at it, like a race and a half from that 6th spot in Kyle Larson. And honestly, with the way things are going, how we know how good Toyota's been, obviously, this year, you can see him getting that top 6 where he can have a fighting chance for that championship later in the year in the chase. So, Chase Briscoe, keep doing what you're doing. James Small, keep hooking up those setups, and you'll be going places. Next guy is William Byron. All season long, we've kind of thought of him as kind of an afterthought, even though he's been in the chase basically all year long, because he's been around this 12th position in points, really 12th to 14th, and he hasn't really popped off the page like William Byron is expected to do, have multiple wins the last 3 seasons. He has none so far this year, still has none. But finally, that 24 car seemed like had one of the best cars out there. Obviously won both stages. Kind of fell off at the end there, but still very, very good points day for that 24. He was in no real threat, I feel like, to not make it, because unlike these other guys that have fallen off, he's kind of remained the same. It was just good to see, for William Byron's sake, to have him be up there and actually dominating a race somewhat. And then the last guy I got to point out is a guy I talked about last week, and I wanted him to make it, but I feel like the dream is almost dead, honestly. And that's Shane Van Gisbergen here in 14th place. I said it, and Bunny also agreed with me, is that I really just wanted to see him make the chase. And I was kind of just overlooking the fact that Trackhouse brings some of the most slowest tractors you can possibly imagine, no matter what track it is. And where, as opposed to Daytona, which is the last race of the regular season, where it's kind of fair game for everybody, you need speed on the other tracks. Obviously, 1.5 mile tracks, short tracks, you need a lot of grip on those. And Trackhouse is bringing none of it to the table. And unfortunately for him, he has no more road courses, and that's why that San Diego race is going to play pivotal come later on, obviously, because he missed out on 30, 40, 50 points potentially because he could have won it. And, he'd rather be up there probably around William Byron, obviously, as opposed to here in 14th, where he's just 3 points ahead of Austin Cindric and 34 ahead of Eric Jones. So, SCG, you got a lot of work to do before, obviously, the chase comes around.
You guys talk about some drivers that I would like to mention, but I want to talk about two here that I want to mention specifically because of Chicagoland. These two drivers both lost a spot in the point standings as well. Actually, one of them lost 2 spots. And they went to a track where a guy they hired did not have any previous notes, that being Chris Gabehart. I'm talking about the Spire guys. I'm talking about Carson Hocevar and Daniel Suarez. Isn't it kind of crazy? Isn't it kind of crazy that we go to a track that we haven't gone to in the whole next-gen era, Chris Gabehart does not have a setup that he stole from JGR, and they run 20th all week? They won 20th on speed pretty much. Daniel Suarez did do a different pitch strategy, stayed out late. He ended up having better tires late in the run, went up to 14th, but just something to think about. I know there's that lawsuit that's going on between Gabehart and JGR. This week, I'm sure JGR is definitely looking at as, hey, come on, something doesn't make sense here, Just something to look at. I think both these guys will totally be fine. Carson Hocevar, I think he's going to stay in the top 10 in points, unless some drastic happens here. But I think we're going to a lot of good tracks for him. I look at Indy as a good track for him. Iowa, I just think he's pretty good there as well. And then for Daniel Suarez, he just continues to just kind of shock me this year because I said a couple weeks ago, I'm going to keep saying here, did not expect him to be anywhere near the playoffs this year, chase this year, and he's solidly in it, currently in 11th. But overall, solid year from those two guys. I just wanted to point out the coincidence there with Chris Gabehart and Spire. The last guy I would like to mention here is going to be Austin Cindric. I brought him up last week. This week, he looked very good. One of the better forwards out there, running in the top 10 the majority, if not all day long, all night long. And we're going to a lot of tracks where if you look at it, a lot of forwards do well here. A lot of forward teams do well. So RFK, they do well at these tracks. Iowa, Richmond. Again, I'm going to keep saying it. They would have done very well at Richmond if they didn't try that stupid strategy they did there where they ran really, really, really late. And I don't know what that was. But overall, if they didn't do that, I think they had winning speed. This year, I think they changed that. We're going to IMS as well. It's a track I could see them being strong at. But then we go to Penske. And a lot of these tracks scream Penske. And it's obviously where Austin Cindric is at. Joey Logano's not too far back, but he hasn't really been there all year long. So if I had to put money on one of these guys to make it, I would say it's going to be Austin Cindric there. Also want to note, of course, Aiden took the time to talk about his guy, Ryan Blaney. Anyway, let's move on and talk about.
Hold on.
What? Go for it.
Before you go on, I just got to point out 2 things. Number one, I think that's why Denny Hamlin. Well, he responded to like that tweet when he said that his car went to the R&D and there was no penalties found. But he was also probably talking about on his podcast I saw where he was talking about the setups for those Spire cars. He definitely had a smirk on his face about it. Grab the tinfoil hat, and then number 2, I thought we were done with lawsuits, honestly. And when obviously I heard about the Gabehart, Spire, JGR lawsuit, I thought, oh man, we're never going to get out of NASCAR. But honestly, I haven't even thought about that lawsuit in a very, very long time. And I'm glad because it was kind of demoralizing to have to talk about that 2011. I mean, I know it's big news, but we had to talk about 2011 in front row versus NASCAR, like basically every 2 weeks. And it's just something I don't want to focus on and don't care about really. And I'm just glad that it's kind of been in the back burner behind the scenes, not really talked about mainstream. So that's all I got to say about that.
All right, next up, do you guys think Chicagoland should return? And if so, why? Give you reasons why. Or if you want to open this up, Chicagoland or the street course, or do you think we could get both? What is your guys' thoughts on this one?
I like the opportunity for both, but if we had to keep one, I would want to keep Chicagoland. I think both can put on solid races. I just think like Chicagoland's peak is way higher than the Chicago Street Course's peak. A peak Chicago Street Course is like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 by NASCAR race standards. A peak Chicagoland race can be the best race of the season, in my opinion. I really do put Chicagoland in that high of a regard. I think the track has the potential to be incredible. We've seen incredible things happen at the track. So that's really just like the main reason why I think I would take Chicagoland over the street course. I wouldn't mind seeing both on the schedule, just mainly because like I do want to race in Chicago. I mean, that is a whole market that NASCAR should tap into. And having a race in the heart of the city, like during the day, is perfect for that. I think it could be great. It is great for the sport to have a race that central to Chicago. I know we say the track's name is Chicagoland. We've mentioned before, the racetrack's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It is south of Chicago. It's in Joliet. Is it Juliet or Juliet? Yeah, okay, it is Juliet. Just want to make sure. My grandpa was saying that wrong the entire time, and he made me think that I was actually in the wrong for a second there. But no. Anyways, yeah, it's in Juliet. It's not really in Chicago. It's south of Chicago. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And I think if you do both Chicago, I'm a child. Anyways, if you use both tracks, I think you should use the Chicago Street Course early in the year and Chicagoland later in the regular season or midway through the regular season. I don't think stacking them on top of each other is a good idea. But yeah, I would like to see both, but if not, Chicagoland.
Yeah, it's a market obviously that NASCAR really wants to, go there every single year. Let's have a race there every single year. It was like out of the schedule for 4 years, I think, and then they brought in the street course, obviously, and it was a great idea in my opinion. Again, I'm not one of these guys that's gonna completely cancel it just because it's a road course. That sucks. NASCAR should only go left. I'm not one of those people. I said it before I went on Sunday, and I said it in our chat, and I said that Junior was talking about it, and he said, he's heard that they want to have the street course and potentially the Chicagoland both on the schedule at the same time. Now, I personally don't know if that's feasible, honestly, because there's only so much you can do. You can draw from an area, and while Chicagoland is out in the middle of nowhere, it's not really in the center of Chicago like the street course is. It is still near that area to the point where, how much are you really willing to, get people to go out there and support two races? And I think, Chicagoland this past weekend did its job. The fans did their job. They sold it out. They made it known that they actually want to be here. And Aiden was talking about the peak, from both races. He's absolutely 100% right. Chicagoland is capable of putting on the best race of the year. We've seen it happen. And, I've seen that, if they bring back the Chicago Street Course, they would put it in like early May, which I guess, that could leave the Chicagoland area, the Chicagoland race maybe in July, like what it was this year. But even then, again, you are kind of stretching the fans up there, and just all around, we talk about how, at least I personally would like to have very few tracks to have two races on the schedule. This isn't exactly that, but again, we never really have seen a market have two exact races together. Like, we know how much the West Coast matters to NASCAR as well, with like the California and that thing, and they had Auto Club for a very long time, and then when Auto Club died, they brought in that Coliseum race, for the clash, but it was still there. It was a great idea. And it was a great idea to bring Chicagoland back, and I want it to stay here permanently, and I hope it does. But I guess we'll wait and see. But yeah, I mean, I had a great time, and that's why I went. Because if it is off the schedule, it's definitely going to be devastating, because I think it's too good of a race not to have on the schedule.
Yeah, you guys already know my opinion on this. I want it to be Chicagoland that's on the schedule. I've been to that racetrack a couple times. It's my home track. I would like it for them to stay on the schedule, and I think everything that Chicagoland has put on this year has proven that it should be on the schedule. On Jeff Gluck's good race poll, it's the third best poll score this year at an 86.9%. That's only behind the 500 and the no, not the 500. It's only behind the Atlanta race, which is the best race this season, and the Nashville race just a couple of weeks ago. So, I mean, it's good races to be in company with, I guess you could say. But overall, hope it stays. I wouldn't mind if they do kind of both, like Chicagoland and the street course, because there is two different fan bases that go to those races. Yeah, Chicagoland, you have your diehards that try to bring along their casual fans, if you will, and then Chicago street course. It's a lot of people who it's usually their first race, or it's in Chicago and they happen to stumble across it and they watch it. And your diehards might not likely go out there. I mean, I'm a diehard NASCAR fan, obviously doing this podcast every Wednesday. I have yet to go to the street course. I have been working. I've heard it is very expensive to go. So maybe that's a reason why you don't see many diehards going. But overall, just I hope that they stick with Chicagoland. And if next year they decide to do both, I'll try to go to both, honestly. I wanted to go to Chicago, the Chicago street course. Never had the opportunity to because I was working. But if they do both, I think there's a way that we could do it. Now, Zachary, you did mention, in different TV markets, you don't see this. I mean, if you look at it, the Charlotte area has quite a lot of tracks in it that we do go to. Just putting that, now I get it, that's that's the NASCAR hub. Of course, you're going to see a lot of races there. When you think NASCAR, you don't really think Chicago, but there is not many races in the Midwest besides Kansas and Iowa. I guess you could also throw in I'm forgetting Gateway. So yeah, you already have 3 races out there, but what's adding another 2? Going to stop you from showing off that area. So hopefully it's back at Chicagoland, and if not, I wouldn't mind it also being at the streetcars. Moving on, Brad Keselowski earlier this week had some comments about Toyota and their partnership with 2311 and JGR. He didn't really call him out, saying it's bad for the sport. He's kind of just bringing attention to it and why he thinks that Ford should do it, Chevrolet, if they wanted to do something like that, they should do it as well. But saying that you look at the success for 2311 and JGR, they have this crazy good partnership where there's basically 7-car team. But they don't. But no one else has that. So he was just kind of bringing attention to it, guys. What do you think on his comments? And do you think we see other manufacturers try to do this?
Obviously, Brad is very outspoken, as he should. He's one of the veterans, obviously, of the sport that still races. And he was obviously quick to point out and shut down the rumors that RFK was going to, Dodge when Dodge comes up. And the reason why I bring this up is because there's obviously a lot of talk about how Ford has been disappointing so far this year outside of Ryan Blaney and to a lesser extent Chris Buescher, and the best manufacturer obviously this year so far has been Toyota, hands down, nonstop. His comments aren't out of line, I feel like, because when you have a team like JGR and then you add in a satellite team that has a guy by the name of Michael Jordan, and they bring together some of the best people you can have on your race team to work on things and try to get speed out of your cars, it's only going to make your company better in the long run. Now, sure, they have something that a lot of these teams just don't have, which is a driver and an owner at the same time, where Denny Hamlin obviously races for Joe Gibbs Racing, but he's an owner of 2311. When Hamlin retires, we'll see if they continue to do it. They might, because they are very valuable and important to the Toyota ecosystem. I feel Brad's comments obviously are justified with what we've seen on the track so far. Bell's even mentioned how he, quote unquote, after the race was over, I went back and read and listened to his interview. He's like, a monkey could drive these cars because of how good they're running and how smooth they're running these races. And you see it at the end there in the stage 1, stage 2, when William Byron was winning. Who was running them down? Briscoe and Hamlin. And I think it has something to do with there's not really they're not making more speed out of their engines. Obviously, they're making more speed from their downforce. How they enter the corner, how they exit the corner, they can just carry more and more speed. And when you carry more speed throughout every part of the track, essentially, because in the straightaways, everyone going about the same, it's in the corners where you can gain a lot of time. And I feel like Toyota has been the best at getting that and getting that out of their cars. And I think Brad's justified in what he's been saying. So I think more teams should collaborate together. Now, obviously, again, no one probably has a closer relationship than 2211 and Joe Gibbs. I guess maybe the closest right now would probably be Hendrick and Spire, because Spire does have a HMS alliance somewhat, but Spire themselves has admitted they wanted to do it all independently, and they still are, because they're spending a lot of money to try and get their way up to a competitive top 10 team. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, jumping in here, I think Brad's got a good idea of what's going on. I think that you need to see this out of the Chevy camp, out of the Ford camp. And Hendrick's kind of in a league of their own between Ford and Chevy, because they are the elite of the elite out of those two camps. And maybe they don't want to show all their cards, like maybe what Gibbs is doing, what 2311 is doing. But I do think that this would benefit some of your lower level Chevrolet teams and the OEMs, because obviously, especially this week and numerous of other weeks this season, Toyota is knocking it out of the park. Toyota had, 7 of the top 10 drivers this week, and they're all 2311 and Gibbs. So, I mean, obviously, over the last few years since 2311 has jumped into the sport, you were starting to see everything that they've been doing pay off. And the programs and the lower levels that the Toyota camp is doing, bringing these drivers up, Corey Heim, for example, what he has been able to do. I've been very vocal about Ford not having any type of program in the Xfinity series, and what they need to bring in to start tunneling these drivers into the Cup Series. And the Ford camp is the smallest camp out of everybody. And they've got to be the ones to start turning it around, because they could easily fall to the wayside at some point. But yeah, Brad, I think he knocked it out of the park and done a very good job about what he was saying. And I'm glad that he spoke up.
Yeah, I think. I mean, if you look at it, what he's talking about is just how good of a partnership that JGR and 2311 has, and just how it's more unlike how Furniture Row way back in the day when Mark Stewart was driving for them, and it was them taking information from JGR and then eventually them winning the championship, and then JGR upping the price for the information, and it was more of a, hey, let me get your information, here's all this money. What he's talking about here is that there's actually collaboration. Like when one finds something, they both find it. They both know about this stuff. It's not like one gets it, they wait a couple weeks, and then they share it with that other team. It's like, oh, hey, check this out. This is what we're doing this week. This is what this is. This is this. And it's kind of going back and forth between all the teams. And it's more beneficial for all of them. All 7 cars are all getting the same information in some sort of way. And unlike any other affiliated team that we've seen in the past, it's like the smaller team pays a set amount to the bigger team, and they get whatever information the bigger team decides to give them. It's not like they give them everything. It's just what they decide. And we're seeing these smaller teams, they kind of show up here and there, but it's not as noticeable as 2311. And I guess you could say it's because of Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin has kind of really been pushing for all this like teamwork, I guess you could say, for Toyota. He wants the best for Toyota. And I think even when Denny's gone, I think he's still going to have that partnership between the two teams. I think we're still going to see it. Toyota wants to stay on top. Why not have the two best teams in NASCAR in the sport at that given time? And I think you brought up a good point, Bunny. You mentioned Ford, they need to step up before they get left aside. And I feel like right now Ford is kind of left aside. Sure, they have Ryan Blaney, who's third in points. He's the highest manufacturer besides Toyota in points. And he's been extremely consistent in the top 10. But he has not had winning speed whatsoever since his race win earlier this season. Like, you are not concerned about seeing him get a checkered flag at all. It's just like, his pit crew, and then he ends up with the top 10. Yeah, sorry, Aiden. I'm sorry, but you probably feel the same way. Like, he's just had no winning speed, and it's really annoying, I'm sure, for you, and it's really annoying for Ryan Blaney.
It absolutely is. I mean, I sent the tweet midway through the race where someone tweeted, Ryan Blaney in a Ford's a bigger waste of talent than MJ on the Cavs, and it feels even more and more true as the week goes on. For sure, it's definitely frustrating.
You can only imagine Ryan Blaney in one of those Toyotas. He might be the points leader with how consistent he is. But overall, I just think that other manufacturers are just behind. You look at it, Toyota's had this body for the last 2 years, and they're pretty good. They're very good. Chevrolet, this is the first year with the new body, and they're still figuring out. But they're slowly but surely getting there. And when they do get there, I'm sure they're going to be on par with Toyota. Ford has had the same body since the entire next-gen era, and they've just kind of either stayed stagnant where they've always been at, or they've gotten worse. And
okay, so Rizzo just lied just now. They've had this body since 2024.
My bad. I thought it was since the beginning. My bad. But yes, 2024. Since then, have they really done anything besides the championship? Yeah, I get it. But think about the format where they've always been good at: flat, short track ovals, and the super speedways. That's only where they're good at. You look at any mile and a half, it's rare to see them get a win. It's been few and far between. And I think when they do get eventually a new body, and it's rumored that it's going to be next year, I could be wrong. It's either next year or the year after that, they plan on getting a new body. And at that point, maybe halfway through the year, then they finally can compete with the other guys. But it's all just about just where you are in the whole R&D of the new next-gen car. They took all three engines, all Toyota, Ford, and Chevrolet engines, to the R&D dyno that NASCAR has. And not Freddie Kraft, Tommy Baldwin said on DBC that all three manufacturers are within 3 horsepower of each other. They're all within 3 horsepower. No one is too far ahead. No one is too far behind. Everyone's right there. So you know what that means? It's all aero, handling, and just the overall drivability of these cars. They're all right there. They're all around the same number. It's just,
I feel like part of that too could be like driver lineup per se.
Yeah.
Like obviously Toyota and has these bright young stars. Even Chevy, we've harped. Larson's still really talented. Chase Elliott's still really talented. Byron's still really good. Hocevar was an incredible talent coming up through the series. Then you look at Ford, and it's kind of stagnant. I mean, yeah, Ryan Blaney's really good, and Ryan Blaney's really talented. But then you got old head Joey Logano, who hasn't been good since his 2022 championship. You got Austin Cindric, who's some would consider a bust at this point, who hasn't been really good. You also got to think of the crew chiefs as well. Ryan Blaney has Jonathan Hassler. They've won a championship together. They've been really good together. Brad Keselowski, he's old. He's getting up there in age. Jeremy Bolins, I'm sorry. He was Ryan Blaney's crew chief. He sucked ass. He is not a good crew chief. I don't know how he still has a job, to be honest. I feel this man should be unemployed right now, but he's not somehow. What else can I say about Jeremy Bolins? Chris Buescher, yeah, he's really good and really consistent, but I mean, yeah, I think driver lineup and crew chief also have a big say in that as well. And I think also, like in general, Toyota's driver lineup and Chevy's driver lineup is way better than Ford's for sure.
Yeah, and that the playoff of that kind of goes back to what Bunny was saying about how Ford has no Xfinity O'Reilly Series lineup. Excuse me, and how that matters. Now, sure, again, the Corey Heim route where you just run trucks for like 3 years in a row and then go to Cup, that can work as well. But you still need a pipeline somewhat in the O'Reilly Series, in case someone doesn't want to do just trucks, they want to go up to the O'Reilly Series too. And you've seen talented drivers because of that, have to go to other teams and other manufacturers, and then you have to pay that manufacturer or somewhat to get them to come to your side. And it's become apparent, obviously, that Ford is just falling behind. Now, when they get that new body, that does give them more promise, I feel, because when you get a new body, you have new opportunities to find something that, you didn't have in the past. And that's why Chevrolet, they didn't change their body when Toyota and Ford did. They stuck with the Camaro and then did some changes this past offseason. And what those changes are, I have no idea, because if you look at the car from today versus the car they ran in 2025, it looks almost the exact same, but it's not. But yeah, that plays a role into that. And obviously the driver lineup, you talked about it. I mean, again, Ryan Blaney is far and away the best Ford driver in the Cup Series. Is not even close. And then you compare that to, Toyota, where Toyota has a Corey Heim who's young, who has developed some, and already has a win in the Cup Series. And you have Tyler Reddick, who's been very good. Obviously, been a struggle lately, but obviously is still extremely talented. Bubba Wallace has improved basically every single year in the last 4 years on his numbers. And then you have the wise, crafty veteran that Denny Hamlin is, aging like fine wine. Briscoe coming over from Stewart Haas Racing, from what that was to now, where he's finally starting to reach his potential somewhat. Obviously, 3 wins last year, a win this year, could get obviously more the rest of the way. And Christopher Bell has had some rough luck, I feel like. 4 second place finishes isn't bad. He's been very hard on himself about it, how he hasn't won so far this year. He got to cut him some slack too, because he has a fractured wrist, and yet he's still pulling out results like this. And then Ty Gibbs is finally, starting to come around in the Cup Series. So it's clear why Toyota is still ahead, obviously, at this point. Now, the first manufacturer that's going to probably reach them is Chevrolet, because, again, you've talked about it, Chevy is getting so close to figuring it out. And then Ford is just kind of off there in the distance a little bit. And Ryan Blaney's got like a string around it, and he's just pulling it forward, trying to get him closer and closer to where Toyota is and where Chevy is at the moment too. But yeah, it should be interesting to see if Ford can catch up.
Alrighty, guys, great topic there. I like how we all had different opinions there, but we're going to move on, talk about the award ceremony. We're going to start off with Top Shelf of the Week and go over to our Hangover of the Week. Top Shelf of the Week, I think it's pretty obvious. I'm going to go Toyota. I'm going Toyota. 7 of the top 10 finishers in the Cup Series. They swept the weekend. Give me Toyota.
Give me a guy that is right now on fire. Has been incredible. I'm pretty sure he was the only Ford to finish inside the top 10. Give me Ryan Blaney. All right. Blaney has 7 top is on a 7 race top 10 streak. The next guy is tied for 4 drivers with 2. Yeah, he's been lights out. He's been incredible. He's been the most consistent driver the past 7 weeks. He has 14 top 10s, which is 2 more than both first and second place in the points, who have the second most top tens. Both Hamlin and Reddick have 12. Blaney has 14. And I mention all of this just mainly because, well, one, he's my favorite driver and he's the GOAT, so fuck off. And two, you look at the tracks he was racing at. I mean, these are not very good Blaney tracks. We kind of were hesitant about Penske going into Chicagoland. Yes, Sonoma was probably his best road course. He's not good at road courses, though. San Diego was a coin toss. He's won at Pocono. He's won twice at Pocono, but it's kind of a coin flip at Pocono. Not gonna lie, he won at Michigan. He's kind of a coin flip at Michigan too. He's not good at Charlotte. These were all tracks that he is not super great at. And now we're going to Atlanta. He's won at Old Atlanta. Came very close at New Atlanta. We're racing at North Wilkesboro, flat oval. They're going to be really good there. He won a stage last week at Indy. Indy's probably the worst track coming up for him. And he's still probably going to finish top 10. Iowa, he's incredible at. Richmond, he's just recently become good at. New Hampshire, he's incredible at. Daytona, he's probably the best plate drafting driver in the field. So keep an eye on Ryan Blaney ending the regular season.
So, in the grand scheme of things, Aiden had to go on a 1-minute rant basically to say that Ryan Blaney is extremely good, but we all knew that, and we'll let it pass because he's his driver. For me, I mean, I'm sure I can go with Byron, but I'm not. I'm gonna go with his teammate because this guy just had one hell of a season and not a very good season at that. Give me Alex Bowman here in 5th. It was nice to see him up there. He has 3 top 5s on the year, which isn't a lot, really, but what it shows is when the 48 car has some speed, they are up there. Now, it's not consistent. Obviously, it's they're way inconsistent. But, and sometimes they're way off. But this past weekend, they weren't, and he was definitely one of the faster cars that last run, and it showed. And Alex Bowman was the defending winner of Chicagoland. And obviously there's questions marks about his future and what that 48 car is going to be, who the driver is going to be next year. But Alex Bowman, it was a good run, so it was great to see that.
Yeah, my top shelf this week, I'm going to give it to C-Bell. You know, we got to remember here, we're only 4 weeks after the wrist fracture. He had to go through a couple of road courses there, but last 2 weeks, top 5, second place finish this week at Chicagoland. Give me C-Bell.
Good picks, guys. Now going on to Hangover of the Week. I think this one's also very obvious. I think either me or someone mentioned him last week, probably. That is Connor Zilic. What is it? 5 of the last 7 races he's finished last or within the last 3 positions on track from a wreck within the first couple laps of the race. It's just he's had the worst rookie season imaginable in terms of luck, and it's half of it's not really due to him. I mean, this definitely wasn't his fault. Sucks to see a guy who should have won the championship last year, had such a fantastic year last year, get in the situation where it has just been terrible. And yeah, he's going to be my hangover of the week, probably hangover of the year so far.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to pick the driver that wrecked with him. I'm going with Ryan Preece. You know, you had that horrible stretch after Texas where you just kept finishing in the 30s. You just weren't running good. You were getting caught up in incidences. And then you go to San Diego. You get the most points. SVG wrecks out. Everything's good. You run okay at Sonoma. And then you just come here where you need to get every point you can get at this point. Where, you know, it's the final stretch. You need to get everything you got. You need to give everything you got. And fortunately, that ended after turn 2 at the race. Not even a lap. He didn't even make a full lap. Gets spun, had trouble the entire day. I think he did eventually get his lap back, but then he did end up getting lapped down again. So he just was not fast the entire day. RFK as a whole wasn't fast the entire day. I already harped on Buscher and Kozlowski kind of stinking up the show. Actually, changed my mind. RFK as a whole, they sucked ass. Anyways, yeah, no, never mind. I'm changing it. Not just Ryan Preece. RFK as a whole, they were terrible. I'm gonna pull up the finishing results. Brad Keselowski, 21st. You qualified like 4th. What happened? Chris Buescher finished 19th. Now he was up there a little bit more than Brad, but still, like off pace alone, they both were terrible. They both weren't very good. They, including Ryan Preece, who had a terrible points day.
Yeah, I had to look at the results real quick to make sure I don't know why it like lost my mind here real quick. But Tyler Reddick, before this stretch, I talked about how the law of averages, my favorite saying the last month, the law of averages, man, we're gonna even out from what he was doing the first like 14 races of the year, where he had no bad finishes. His worst finish was 15th, and other than that, he had like 9 top 10s or something like that, something crazy. And he's given all that up in the last month. He has like 4 of the last 5 races. He has 25th or worse. And he caught another bad break this past weekend in Chicagoland where something went through his grill, knocked his radiator completely out of the car. They had to spend time in the garage to repair it. He was obviously a lot of laps down, and he couldn't make that up and finished 36th. And he's lost the point lead, obviously, with the last 2 weeks with his problems. To Hamlin, and Blaney's now slowly creeping in too. And Aiden's talked about how the best tracks for Blaney are coming up, and he's not wrong. Obviously, he's the defending winner at New Hampshire. He's a great restrictor plate racer. So he's definitely feeling some pressure to even hold on to second place because of how bad the stretch has been for him.
Yeah, I had all that pulled up. You took my hangover of the week, but I'm going to pull out a little side note here. Give me Dale Earnhardt Jr. for this week, being one of the legends in NASCAR, but having to get towed with his 2017 Chevy Traverse on the side of the road, being, a legend of the sport and still having to get towed off the road.
Well, Rizzo is dead. Anyways, so I guess now we're going to move on to Nope, never mind. I already botched it. All right, someone else take the reins. I already messed up.
All right. So after we do Hangover and Top Shelf, we go into our picks for Atlanta and our predictions for what Atlanta is going to be. So, Bunny, you have the results, so pull it up.
I thought we was going to go over to Aiden's diecast real quick. Wait on Rizzo to come back.
Oh, I'm here. Yeah, let's go.
Okay,
let's go.
He's here.
Yeah, let's go. Aiden's diecast of the week before we get into the picks.
Okay.
Aiden, you are muted.
Fuck me. Not a good, low-key, not a good diecast this week because holy glaze. Now that I think about it, I have glazed this guy today. Anyways, yeah, I got like 15 diecast over the week. I spent like over $200. It was probably not the best. I don't make good financial decisions when it comes to diecast, but out of all the ones I got, I had to get me a Ryan Blaney diecast, and I just wanted to show this off. The yellow highlighter. Yet again, another yellow highlighter that I got. I've gotten so many highlighters, and I still love every single one of them. It's my child. Anyways, yeah, I just wanted to show off the Delta Menards car. I feel like the highlighter gets too much hate. I just wanted to show off Blaney because the incredible streak he's been on recently, and I think he's only going to get better as the race goes on. But yeah, I do also want to mention that this is not the normal plastic chassis. This is the die-cast chassis with rubber tires. These tires are made of rubber, and they actually paint the rims on these ones. Normally they don't do that, and they just put dull gray on them. But yeah, they actually paint the rims. Look, I'm putting it in the light, and it's shimmering, and it's cool because I don't know, I might have autism, and this is the cool thing to me. Anyways, that'll do it for Diecast of the Week.
Oh man, hey, you're talking a lot about your guy Ryan Blaney this week. I'll give it to you though. He's your favorite driver. That's all good. Now
He
let's
might
go
pick him.
on. Yeah, right. Now let's go on to picks and predictions. Starting off with how we finished last week at Chicagoland.
All right. So from Chicagoland, we have Rizzo finishing in 4th with Larson with 34th place finish. Zachary, he finished 3rd with Hocevar finishing 22nd. Aiden, runner up this week with Elliott in 11th place. And I picked up my 6th win of the season with Corey Heim.
Wow. Yeah. Dang. I feel like I had a good shot there.
Remember Rizzo's quote after we all made our picks. These are really good picks, guys. I think all of our guys can finish in the top 10. And
Yeah.
then we end up with Corey Hine being the only one. I am pissed about that because I didn't know Bunny picked Corey Hine, so I left the racetrack thinking I won. I'm mad.
Well, I've been on a pretty bad streak here lately, and now we're going into a track that rewards aggressiveness, but also is pretty treacherous. I'm going with the guy who is extremely aggressive, and someone I've saved specifically for this track. Give me Carson Hocevar, the Hurricane.
I don't think, the biggest worry is Atlanta. It's actually the second biggest worry. I think the biggest worry for this weekend is going to be Todd Gilliland, considering he's caused 2 wrecks here at the new configuration. Yes, that is true. I picked Hocevar last week, and unfortunately, it did not work out for me. So I'm gonna switch. I was thinking about picking a Spire guy again. I'm gonna switch it up here a bit because I haven't picked this guy yet, and there's only a select few tracks I can really use him at because he's actually only shown up at these type of tracks. And give me Austin Cindric.
It's my turn this time around and leaves me wide open for my pick. I've already glazed him enough today, so I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. Yeah, fuck it. Give me Daniel Suarez.
Oh, fuck you. That was going to be my damn sleeper pick here. All right. Give me. Let me go with Zane Smith this week.
Some good picks this week, guys. Some really good picks. I do got to say, I had picked Daniel Suarez. Every time I've picked him at this track, he's won the weekend for me. So, Aiden, you got a good pick there. But I like my chances with Carson Hocevar. But moving on, let's get to our predictions for this race before we get to Zachary's Guess the Driver. So I'll start off with predictions. The spring version of this race was the best race of the year we've seen this year. Now we're going into the summer race, another night race. We're going, what is it, like 7 or 6 races left until the chase. This race is going to be nerve-wracking. It's going to be crazy. We're going to see some wrecks. We're going to see some crazy wrecks. It's all about making the right moves, being overly aggressive. And if you are that aggressive driver, you usually get rewarded in this race. Does someone make a bad move like Bubba did late in this race, blocking too high, getting left out wide, and open the door for someone else to get the win? Does that happen again? Do we see some crazy finish that we have tended to see at this track? It's the best track on the schedule, the best race on. It's the hottest ticket on the season. Dale Jr. said it best. This is going to be a great race. I cannot wait for this race. I'll definitely be watching. Guys, thoughts on this race?
I'm excited. I think this has really, as much as I hated the news of the new configuration, I can't deny that it's been great. I think it's definitely been one of the best, arguably the best track on the NASCAR circuit ever since we started racing this style of racing here. It is a hot ticket. I completely understand it. It's definitely a race that I really want to go to. My grandpa's actually going to Atlanta as well, so he got to go to Chicagoland and Atlanta in back-to-back weeks. That would be really cool, and I do hope one day I do go to this version of Atlanta. It looks a lot of fun. I think we could easily, at the best, walk away with the new best race of the season. At worst, it's still a top 5 race. At worst, I guess it could get stupid. Let me take that back. Drafting tracks can get stupid. I gotta remember that. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm always excited for Atlanta now. It's great. I couldn't ask for a better racetrack to go to look forward to.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be, if you look back on it.
Scratch that. Hold on. I just want to pause you for a second. Never mind. There is one track I look more forward to. And that is my love, New Hampshire, because all you guys hate it for some reason.
It just does never sit right with me, that track. But at least it's not as bad as Texas. You know, when I first heard that they were repaving Atlanta into this, I was obviously a little upset. I kind of enjoyed, obviously, the old Atlanta surface, where you can slip and slide around, and he had a lot of tire wear. And then I thought, we didn't really need another super speedway, and thankfully it's not really a super speedway, because if it was, man, I'd be bored out of my mind. But I'm never bored out of my mind watching Atlanta. There's a lot of passing that goes on. There's a lot of cars that you can tell like are out of the edge, off the edge, and I mean, sure, Chase Elliott's won here twice and whatnot, and who cares really if he is the hometown favorite. It's a great track. It's just all around they didn't mess up for once when repaving a track. I couldn't believe it. And I was gonna say before Aiden cut me off there, it was like, this is, if you look back on it, really, this is the best 2-week stretch you could have. We had to go from Chicagoland, which is a 1.5 mile track that has a multi-groove surface, to Atlanta, where lots and lots of passing can go on. There's everything you would want in a super speedway is at Atlanta. And I haven't gone to Atlanta. It is on my bucket list. Hopefully I can get there one day and see it. And I'm definitely looking forward to this. And I think it's going to be a great race, obviously.
Yeah, and Aiden, worst track ever, Pocono. Pocono for me. No, Zachary, I agree. I was very skeptical to the repave. I wasn't sure if it was going to work, but I really seen a big difference this last race earlier this year. I think we're getting enough difference in the inaugural repave race and this one that we're seeing that Georgia heat kind of play a factor into it, and it's making for some really good racing. Atlanta has always been one of my bucket list places to go, but now that they've done the repave, what they are doing there, yes, within the next couple of years, Atlanta, I will be there. So I think we're going to see great racing, a lot of action, and I'm up for this race. Top 5.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the weekend. We're looking forward to it. Next up on the docket, we got Zachary's Guess the Driver.
Well, I don't know if we're looking forward, before I start, I don't think we're looking forward to O'Reilly, because it might be an Austin Hill masterclass if you really care all that much about it. Unless Ross Chastain's in the field, because then he'll make the move and then turn him. And then Sheldon Creed ends up winning. But yeah, last week I pointed it out how I kind of stumped these guys, because I just pulled the most randomest driver you could have pulled, and I said I'd make it a little easier. This is a driver that ran in the 1980s, okay? So, and he ran until like early 2010. So he has one in the modern times. We'll see if these guys can get it. All right, started off. This driver was born in Mattatuck, New York. He initially came to prominence driving what is now known as the Whelen Modified Series. He competed in the series from 1980 to 83. He won 17 times at Stafford Speedway and ended up winning the series title in 82. He stopped driving because in 1983, he actually joined the Winston Cup Series in his first year, his debut coming in the Firecracker 400, which is now known as the Coca-Cola 600 at Daytona. He only ran 5 races, though, that season. His best finish coming out in 17th.
Is this Jimmy Spencer?
Now,
Oh,
this driver's father actually sponsored his cars for the first 3 years of his career until he folded the company because it was costing him a lot of money. This driver mainly was used as a research and development driver for multiple teams during his career. He drove for Buddy Baker, Rick Hendrick, and Dale Jr. for Junior Motorsports. He has one win, that win coming 2 years after his debut in the Firecracker 400 at Daytona in 85. And you want to probably write this down because I got his numbers, car numbers or whatever.
Derek Cope.
No. That's a good guess, though. All right. This driver's car numbers because he drove a lot of numbers. 10, 18, 20, 41, 77, 90, and 98.
what is his most known number?
The 10.
Yeah.
And if you want, his initials are GS.
Jeff Green.
Jeff Green's incorrect.
Greg Sachs.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Ooh, dang. I knew as soon as you said Greg. Damn.
Let's go. I
Yep.
forgot he drove for Hendrick.
Yep, he did. Late 80s is when he drove. And he actually, initially, he only signed up for part-time, obviously.
Mhm.
And then they actually gave him an opportunity to drive their cars full-time, but not obviously, a less big, not in like one of the best cars. It was still a research development driver. And then when Darrell Waltrip actually got hurt, he filled in the 17. He actually ran very good, honestly, in 3 races. Finished second at Michigan. But yeah, he only had one win, and he had like 2 poles, and that's really all there was for Greg Sachs. But I thought it'd be a good driver to do. So Greg Sachs, bravo, you made my list.
Mhm. One of my guesses was almost Ricky Craven. Actually, that was I unmuted my mic right before you said he had 1 career win, and like if you didn't say that, I was gonna guess Ricky Craven.
Yeah, I mean, he has 2. So
See, I was just thinking of people that Tommy and Freddie mentioned on Door Bumper Clear being from the Northeast. I remember them saying Jimmy Spencer. And now once you said GS and he's said something, I was like, oh, dang it. I know exactly who it is. And,
yeah. I almost shot it immediately for Steve Parks because I'm like 90% sure Steve Parks is from New York.
He is. I'm pretty sure he's up in that area as well.
Yeah. I looked it up just real quick to make sure I can say it. His father's team was Sachs and Sons. That's his team. He was driven by Greg Sachs, of course, and one other driver, Cecil Gordon.
Oh wow!
Their best finish was an 8th place finish. They only had 3 top 10s in the entire team's history. That's why it went under. It was so ran poorly. But yeah.
It's a good week. Good driver, Zachary. Good driver. At least this one was definitely gettable. Last week, though, let's not do last week again. That was a little too difficult. And we all discussed before the show, before we went live, that even if you gave us a week, we would not have gotten. I didn't even remember his name. But good for him for being mentioned on a NASCAR podcast. I'm sure it was the first time he's ever been mentioned on a NASCAR podcast, probably ever. But overall, great job this week. That's a good pick.
I mean, I have to stump you guys. You know, sometimes it's part of the game. I can't just have you all win all the time. So
Yeah, but a name that I would have never guessed is two names put together. I mean, like I said, I don't even know. Aiden, do you remember who it was last week?
James Lofton,
no,
Limpton, started with an L.
no, it started with an H.
Okay, never mind then.
James
even close.
James Hilton.
James Hilton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I had heard of that guy's name again. Like even before I researched him up, I had heard of him. But it's because when he passed away, that's why. That's when I heard about him.
No joke. Like I was listening to like Sirius XM, like NASCAR radio station, like on the way to the racetrack. My family just had it playing, like just listening to it. I swear to God, he got mentioned. I was like, no fucking way this dude got mentioned. I don't even remember why they mentioned him. They just mentioned, yeah, James Hilton, and it's like, what? I couldn't remember his name, but I just remember hearing it, and like, no way he got mentioned the very week we had him.
They were listening to the show. They listened to Zachary's Guess the Drivers, what they got from there. Well, overall, anything you guys would like to add before we call it a night?
I've seen that well, they're not going to do it at Atlanta, obviously, but this is mainly for Daytona and Talladega. They've talked about changing up the package for Daytona and Talladega, so we'll see. As we get closer to Daytona, they're going to announce, I think, a new package setup, which I'm excited to see because, you know, outside of Atlanta, again, Daytona and Talladega are kind of, unfortunately, been snoozers.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that. If the rumors are true, we might actually get some good, you know, restrictor plate, you know, not even know it's a restrictor plate, but a good super speedway race besides Atlanta. But that's going to do it from all of us here at Moonshiners Racing, presented by Depot Street Sports. We'll be back next week talking all things Atlanta and getting you ready for North Wilkesboro. We'll be back next week. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm your host, Michael Rizzo, joined with Aiden Forney, Zachary Kendall, and Bunny. We'll see you guys next week.